Thanks to all of you being on tonight. We got a packed house, and we're going to bring on Dr. Paul Harris, and I'm going to read just a few things about Dr. Paul here for a second. And Dr. Paul is an ND and a PSCD, and offers over 42 years of diverse professional experience in the field of integrative medicine. Dr. Harris is licensed as a doctor of pastoral science and medicine by the PMA, based on his extensive education, background, and experience in scriptural, valid natural medicine, his long-standing faith-based approach to health counseling. Dr. Harris also holds a doctorate of naturopathy degree, certifications as a QRA practitioner and natural health care practitioner, and is a certified personal trainer, among other great talents. Dr. Harris and his wife Connie have a beautiful office complex there in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and a couple of outlying offices in the area that they seek out to help other people make better decisions in life by giving them the right information to make those decisions. As you're on this webcast viewing in from all around the globe tonight, we want to thank you for your time, and we ask you to please get a pen and paper to take notes, and please get back to the person that shared this information with you so you too can make better decisions for your family and friends. And again, we are not here to treat, diagnose, cure, or heal. We're here to give information to you, so hopefully you can make better decisions along life's journey. So at this time, I'd like to turn the webcast over to Dr. Paul Harris.
Thank you, everyone. I have someone here with me that would like to say hi, so just bear with me for a minute while I swap earphones.
Hello, all you Zoom people out there.
Hey, Miss Connie, thank you for being on with us tonight. And this is Dr. Paul's, I'm not going to say better half, and usually I would, but since on this webcast tonight, she is the one behind the scenes tonight that she helps each and every one that comes in the offices and the clinic. She keeps Dr. Paul straight and keeps him on time and keeps him informed with all his patient load and taking care of it. They work as a partnership in and outside of their offices, and it's a pleasure to have you on as well, Miss Connie.
Oh, thank you. It's a joy to be here tonight. I'll turn you over to Dr. Paul and let him tell you the information on all of these wonderful products. Thank you.
All right. I want to thank everyone for taking time on a cold Monday evening to spend with me and learning about Xooma products. And I want you to realize it's not just about the marketing end of it. And there's a great business opportunity with the Xooma for sure. But I'm here to encourage you and to help you realize the life-changing potential with Xooma products. I'm going to have to go real fast tonight. I have to cover about an hour and a half worth of information in about 45 minutes. So we're going to just jump right into it. But since our flagship water product is X2O, we're going to talk a little bit about the benefits and the necessity of water. First of all, a human can go for more than 3 weeks without food. Some of you may think you can't do that, but you really could. However, the maximum time an individual can go without water seems to be about a week. So water is really important. And our bodies are constantly losing water, which is why drinking just 2 or 3 glasses of water per day is really not enough to keep the body hydrated. So we all need adequate amounts of clean, mineralized water. And that requirement could easily be met by drinking a minimum of 3 to 4 bottles of X2O enriched water per day. So let's take a quick look at some of the peer-reviewed published facts about water. Number one, and this is an incredible piece of information, but hydration has a major effect not only on energy levels, but brain function. And that's according to a study in the ACMS Health Fitness Journal published in 2013. Number two, there was a study reported in the Journal of Headache Pain, PubMed, in 2005, and it states that proper hydration can actually help prevent and treat headaches. Number three, it was reported in the European Journal of Clinical Nutrition in 2007 that hydration can relieve constipation. And then number four, one of the reported benefits of X2O customers is that of weight loss, and a lot of you have experienced that. There was a study in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism. You can read it in PubMed, and it revealed that just drinking 17 ounces of water increased metabolism by 24 to 34% for up to 1.5 hours. And then another PubMed study, number 5, reported that even just mild dehydration, 1 to 3% of body weight, can impair many aspects of brain function. So we're going to move to the next slide. Bear with me just for a moment. We're going to talk about minerals, because the X2O is all about minerals. As a matter of fact, the X2O contains 70 plus trace minerals that are actually derived from a pristine ocean source near the Okinawan Islands. And calcium and magnesium make up a significant portion of each one of these little 1 gram sachets. And so minerals are the spark plugs of human biochemistry. And just a word about magnesium, for example. Magnesium is an enzymatic cofactor, and it is required as a partner for over 300 different enzymes and enzyme systems. Biochemically, and this is key, magnesium's greatest role is its ability to combine with ATP, which is adenosine triphosphate, or magnesium ATPase, and that's actually the fuel of your cell. Without ATP, then your cells could not function. They couldn't take in nutrients and metabolize nutrients, and they couldn't detoxify. So ATP is life's high-energy chemical battery, and it's the fuel of the cell. And then zinc is also required for the activity of over 300 metabolic enzymes. And when I'm referring to these metabolic enzymes, I'm not talking about hydrochloric acid. I'm talking about enzymes that run your metabolic machinery. So without magnesium or without zinc and some of these trace elements, then the spark plugs of life, you need a spark plug change, and things don't work too well. Another reason for X2O is most Americans are mineral deficient. As a matter of fact, the United States Department of Agriculture reports that 9 out of 10 Americans are deficient in potassium. That's not 10. 8 out of 10 are deficient in vitamin E, and 7 out of 10 are deficient in calcium. 50% of Americans are deficient in vitamin A, vitamin C, and magnesium. So as you can see, there's not anyone that I can think of that could not benefit from X2O in your family, your friends, your business associates. That's an easy thing to sell, because the foods that we eat do not have adequate amounts of minerals in them. And when considering these statistics that I just shared with you, the probability that you're included in at least one of these deficient groups is very, very high for the spark plugs of human biochemistry. Why? What are some of the reasons why we don't have enough minerals? First of all, improper farming practices will deplete the soil of nutrients. That's a pretty well-known fact. That's not a news flash. The other thing is, a study published in the Journal of Nutrition and Health found copper levels in the United Kingdom have dropped 90% in dairy, 55% in meat, and 76% in vegetables. So as you can see, we're just not getting the minerals and the spark plugs of life that we need. Now, another important aspect of the X2O, and that is what we've talked about a lot, not only on past seminars, but in other training sessions, and that's the importance of a pH balanced body. So I want to briefly share with you some studies that helps to basically provide the information and studies to document the efficacy and the benefits of a pH balanced body. Let's start first with a University of Arizona study. The relationship between diet and cancer is a well-known fact. And in a study completed at the University of Arizona, it was published in the Nutrition and Metabolism Journal in London in 2012. The researchers found that acidic diets, which are typically high in animal protein and grains and salt and low in fruits and vegetables, and that, by the way, is the typical American diet, can lead to a subclinical or low-grade state of metabolic acidosis. So This acidity is pretty well known and associated with cancer, and lower pH levels in the extracellular space promote the invasive and metastatic potential of cancer cells. So that's the space in between the cells themselves. And metastases is when the cancer spreads. So if the area surrounding the tumor, for example, is acidic and too acidic, then that opens up the doorway for that cancer to spread and metastasize. Then there was a study completed at the MD Anderson Cancer Center, and they basically have reported that an alkaline body fights off pathogens that cause disease by creating a healthy cellular environment. These are easy cells and easy reason, common sense reason. Then it creates oxidative stress, and oxidative stress has been associated with inflammation and cancer. In a review study completed at MD Anderson Cancer Center in Houston, Texas. And then Dr. Linda Frassetto, MD, a professor of University Medicine at the University of California, believes our body's pH balance becomes overwhelmed, and that is so true. What happens is that the more acidic we become, then the cells of the body, in an effort to neutralize the acidity so it doesn't affect vital organs, it will begin to store it in the soft tissue of the body, into the connective tissue of the body, in the tendons. And this contributes to a pro-inflammatory state associated with fibromyalgia and various aches and pains that just don't make any sense at all. It's because your body is trying to slow down the acid waste from affecting your heart, your liver, and real vital organs. So all the more reason why we need to remain alkaline. And then there's a study done at the University of California, basically shows that those who have chronic acidosis are at greater risk for bone loss than those who have normal pH levels. So the more acidic a person becomes, what happens is the body will begin to mobilize calcium from the bones and tissue to try to alkalize the body, and as a result, to protect your heart, etc., and your arteries. So as a result, then your bones begin to become demineralized over a period of time. All right, next slide. This is a very interesting slide that I ran across from the American Diabetes Association, and that is simply this: the pH of drinking water influences the composition of gut microbiome and type 1 diabetes incidence. Now, the gut microbiome has to do with the beneficial flora and the beneficial bacteria, and that, of course, has changed over a period of time because of genetically modified foods, because of taking a lot of antibiotics and NSAIDs and ibuprofen and those kinds of things. And the author affiliations are Department of Microbiology and Immunology for Medical University of South Carolina, Department of Surgery, Medical University of South Carolina, Department of Surgery, University of Illinois at Chicago. In the abstract, the overview is basically this. It says that the non-obese diabetic, or NOD mice, spontaneously develop T1D, or type 1 diabetes, progression of which is similar to that in humans, and therefore are widely used as a model for understanding the immunological basis of this disease. The incidence of T1D in NOD mice is influenced by the degree of cleanliness of the mouse colony and the gut microflora. In this report, we show that the TID incidence and rate of disease progression are profoundly influenced by the pH of drinking water, which also affects the composition and diversity of commensal bacteria in the gut. That is huge. The diabetic mice were made worse because of an imbalance in the pH, and the pH of the water also affected the bacteria in the gut, and that the same thing is true in humans. A lot of water we drink is chlorinated and has bromine and chloramine and those kinds of chemicals in it, and as a result, that begins to adversely affect the human gut. And the gut is very important. For example, 70 to 80% of your immune system is in your gut. The majority of your brain neurotransmitters are produced in your gut. For example, 95% of serotonin, your happy feel-good hormone, is produced in the gut. Dopamine is produced in the gut. Melatonin is produced in the gut. So I hope you begin to realize the importance of a properly balanced pH in your water and drinking alkaline water. That is huge, folks. All right, we're going to go to the next slide. We're also going to talk about chlorine and thyroid and breast cancer. If your blood pH is too low, then your body will, as we just discussed, your body will store more toxins in your cells and oxygen levels will be reduced. I have found over the many years I've been in practice, the more acidic a person is, the more difficult it is to detoxify that person. And the more acidic the cell is, it will tend to hold on to mercury and other heavy metals and things of that nature. So it is crucial to maintain a proper pH, and I can't think of a better way to do it than with the X2O. So let's talk about how X2O actually helps to neutralize chlorine. And this is an important piece. According to the U.S. Council of Environmental Quality, the cancer risk to those people who drink chlorinated water is 93% higher than among those whose water does not contain chlorine. And then the other interesting piece of information is how chlorine and chloramine affects your thyroid and breast cancer. These three chemicals, chlorine, fluoride, and bromine, will actually interfere with the absorption of iodine by your thyroid gland because they're actually they're halogens, and they compete at the binding site in the thyroid for iodine. So if it displaces iodine and seats itself in the place of iodine, then that can make your thyroid less functional. I say that all the time. And so this competition occurs, and then your thyroid function begins to diminish. Breast cancer, which now affects 1 in every 8 women in North America, has recently been linked to the accumulation of chlorine compounds in the breast tissue. And there was a study carried out in Hartford, Connecticut, the first of its kind in North America, and they found that women with breast cancer have 50 to 60% higher levels of byproducts in their breast tissue than women without breast cancer. Huge, important piece of information. All right, let's move to coffee or focus up. Actually, I like a little bit of both. I have a cup of coffee every morning, and then I have focus up, and I am wired and ready to go to work. Focus up. We're going to talk about each individual ingredient. So why do we need to take focus up? What's so important about focus up? So before we get into each individual ingredient, I'm going to spend some of my time, my 30 minutes, and I want to talk to you about brain function. Folks, this is incredibly, incredibly important that you understand what I'm about to share with you. There are many reasons for taking focus up, but the one thing that really motivates me more than anything else that I can think of for taking focus up is this. Number one, 1 in 8 seniors will develop Alzheimer's in their lifetime. And as a side note, Alzheimer's is now being called type 3 diabetes. Diabetics have a significantly greater risk of developing Alzheimer's disease. As a matter of fact, in the past few years, the connection between Alzheimer's and diabetes has grown stronger with each study. And people who have type 2 diabetes often experience a sharp decline in cognitive function. And almost 70% of these individuals develop Alzheimer's. This is important information. This is what motivates me to spend my evenings talking about these products, what they do for you, and how they can help reduce some of these risk factors. As a matter of fact, there was a recent study published in the journal Neurology, and they found that people with type 2 diabetes are more likely to develop the brain tangles, also known as neurofibrillary tangles, commonly seen in people with Alzheimer's disease. And they found that participants with type 2 diabetes were more likely to have the brain tangles even if they did not have dementia or memory loss. Important. Number 2, our children. I'm seeing more and more cases of autism, of ADD, ADHD, and it's heartbreaking. 1 in 8 children are also diagnosed with brain development disorders, including autism, ADD, and ADHD. I recall one, on a personal note, a personal friend of mine was a young lady in college, brilliant young lady, but she was having problems focusing and concentrating, and she wasn't doing that well in school, and she was considering dropping out. So I said, why don't you try the Focus Up? Just try it for a week. And I didn't hear anything from her. After the first week, 2 weeks later, I got a text from Mom. She said, I don't know what was in that product, said, but she is doing awesome in school. She's not going to drop out, and she now is number 1 in her class because she had terrible ADHD, just could not focus and concentrate. So that's just one example. I want to look deeper. So sharpen your pencils, and we are going to get out of this, I promise you. We're going to look deeper at the relationship between the brain and the autonomic nervous system, or the ANS. The autonomic nervous system, I want you to understand this. We're talking about brain products. So we're going to talk about the brain. So the autonomic nervous system runs the show. The autonomic nervous system controls our organs, our arteries, our glands, and our digestive system. We have no conscious awareness of this activity. For example, Bodie, you don't have to stay up at night and tell your lungs to breathe, right? Ronnie, you don't have to sit up and tell your heart to beat. And Connie, you don't have to tell your stomach to digest the cheeseburger that you had for dinner, if you had a cheeseburger for dinner. Just using that as an example. These are automatically occurring, and we want the autonomic nervous system to work in balance and to work effortlessly. So by now you may be wondering, all of you folks out there, what is your point, Dr. Paul, with all of this information? Well, for starters, a lot of us are under stress. Chronic stress inhibits the flow of oxygen to the brain, and especially in sympathetic dominance. So if your brain is stressed out, if it's inflamed and malnourished, and we suffer with accelerated brain damage and degeneration, rather, then we risk problems and have problems with high blood pressure and digestive complaints and dry eyes and incontinence and poor memory and brain fog and much, much more. So we're going to take a little fast trip now with the gut-brain axis, because if your brain's not working right, if you're missing, for example, some of these nutrients, or not taking these nootropic nutrients, then this will help you understand the need for taking them. So the brain plays a major role in your gastrointestinal function. Your brain plays a huge role in your body's ability, your stomach's ability to digest, and your intestinal ability to absorb food. This includes controlling peristaltic action. I've seen patients that had chronic constipation, for example. So they lack that peristaltic or squeezing action that moves the waste products through the body. Well, the brain plays a huge role in that. So if you're under a lot of stress and have poor diet and you're needing some of these nutrients, that can be the reason why. Also, a healthy brain helps to release digestive enzymes to break your food down, and helps with blood flow and chemicals to support the gut. So your digestive system actually has its own nervous system called the enteric nervous system. So here's the rundown. So let's get right to it. Here's the way it works. It starts with your brain making a phone call to your gut, or your gut's brain, called the enteric nervous system. The call comes through the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve emerges from the brainstem, and it goes through your body's organs, including those in the digestive tract. Now listen carefully. Here's the take-home point. As your brain loses functionality, as you're stressed out, all of these things going on, a person begins to lose digestive ability. As the gut-brain axis loses its efficiency, then the vagus nerve loses its ability to promote the release of HCl to digest your proteins. This is a bidirectional thing. If you've got stress in the brain, it can affect your gut. If you've got stress and inflammation in the gut, it can affect your brain. Now, you can experience digestive problems that are not caused by poor brain function, but if you have brain fog, here's the criteria. If you have brain fog and nothing seems to help your digestive system, then consider the possibility of a poor brain function, and you just might be a candidate for Focus Up and Revital Mind. So these are all important facts to know that when your autonomic nervous system is working correctly, you're going to have good digestion, normal blood pressure, good sleeping patterns, good memory, and basically a great hair day. So if you're under chronic stress and you eat a poor diet, if you smoke, if you drink too much, or you're overexposed to chemical and environmental chemicals, one or more of the brain regions begin to degenerate. And lastly, chronically elevated cortisol. When you're under chronic stress, chronically elevated cortisol from chronic stress kills brain cells. In the Journal of Neuroendocrinology, 1994, increased cortisol levels in aging and Alzheimer's disease and postmortem cerebral spinal fluid was positive. So these individuals, after they had deceased, they had elevated levels of cortisol from chronic stress. So what do we do about all of this? Well, first of all, you need to embrace a healthy lifestyle, eating correctly, eating healthy, eating clean, exercising, reducing unnecessary stress, and then taking Xooma nootropic supplements like Focus Up and Revital Mind. So let's now go over some of the ingredients that we've kind of laid a laborious background for the next segment of our presentation. We're going to talk about the individual ingredients in the Focus Up. Number one up is acetyl L-carnitine. Now, acetyl L-carnitine is an ingredient that offers superior protection from stress and excitotoxic damage. For example, when you eat the pink sugar, that causes your neurons to fire and fire and fire and fire rapidly to the point where they fire to the point where they just die. And there are other things that can cause excitotoxic damage. Certain medications can cause excitotoxic damage, overfiring to the point where the neuron just dies. So acetyl L-carnitine in the Focus Up helps to protect you from that excitotoxic damage. It also has an energetic and regenerative effect on your brain cells. Now, we've just talked about all the potential problems and things that can happen. And so the acetyl L-carnitine helps to protect that. Alzheimer's and cognitive decline are problems of nerve-related wear and tear that involve the formation of amyloid plaquing. So all of these nootropic ingredients help with this. ALC also helps your brain metabolize fat and cholesterol. And why is that important? Well, your brain is mostly fat, and 70% of that fat is very important to consume. So don't be afraid of taking healthy fats. ALC is known to boost general nerve transmission, and this was tested in diabetic patients with peripheral neuropathy. And I'm sure you probably know what peripheral neuropathy is, where you have the burning and stinging sensation if you have diabetic, and sometimes numbness. All right, the next ingredient is green tea. Green tea has anti-inflammatory and antioxidant capability and a little bit of caffeine. And that's where you get some of your energy from. It helps with your memory. 250 milligrams of green tea increase brain connections that process and store information. It's also been shown to be protective in digestive cancer. It protects your brain. There's a polyphenol in green tea that can protect you against neurological diseases, according to studies in mice. It burns fat. That's good news. Human studies are far from conclusive, but there's good research that's showing green tea plus exercise promotes a significant belly fat burning. All right, next ingredient is benefits of rhodiola rosea. This is an interesting product in that it works as an adaptogen. And so if the adrenal gland, for example, is hypervigilant, overactive, it helps to calm it down and dampen the effect of the adrenal overactive functionality. Or if it's underactive, it also helps to strengthen it and stabilize that. So rhodiola helps to regulate hormones. It helps to boost energy. It helps in muscle recovery. It helps in cardiac problems, immune system stimulation, and also stress reduction. Rhodiola, and this is important, especially as it relates to brain. There is a part of your brain called the blood-brain barrier, and the blood-brain barrier it's a highly selective group of network vessels in your brain that only allow certain things to get in your brain and certain things to leave your brain. So it's very protective. And sometimes it kind of gets congested. And so the rhodiola helps to enhance the permeability of the blood-brain barrier, so you can get more tryptophan, which converts into serotonin, and it just helps overall brain function. And as the slide says, unobstructed transport of dopamine and serotonin, and these are two transmitters that are essential for regulating mood and promoting a good quality of life. All right, the next ingredient is DMAE. DMAE may play a role in treating memory lapses or senior moments and symptoms of Alzheimer's disease. There's also studies that have shown that it has helped with attention deficit hyperactivity disorders. DMAE, the interesting part about DMAE is it helps speed the production of acetylcholine. And acetylcholine helps you with memory and learning. And acetylcholine is a crucial neurotransmitter that's responsible for carrying messages between brain cells and from the brain to muscles that control body movements. And acetylcholine is essentially a synthesized product of choline, and it's involved in higher brain functions such as learning, recall, and memory. And then lastly, DMA is a potent site-specific free radical scavenger. And free radicals are highly reactive molecular fragments that can cause damage. This is one of the ways that radiation, for example, does the damage that it does. It causes free radical damage. And it's DMAE is a very important free radical scavenger. All right, next up is huperzine A. This is a Chinese plant, club moss, and it is a natural supplement that has a range of nootropic benefits, things that benefit the brain and nervous system, and it helps to improve memory function. The most common use of huperzine A includes the treatment of neurological problems such as Alzheimer's. It also is beneficial with memory loss and increases acetylcholine levels in the brain, and helps with memory formation and the ability to process or calculate data. The next ingredient is vinpocetine. Vinpocetine is one of my favorites. It's actually the periwinkle plant, Vinca minor, and it's used in Japan and Europe actually to treat post-stroke victims. And it's used to treat a number of cerebrovascular diseases, and it offers a potential neuroprotective effect as well. Here's what vinpocetine does. It has an effect on the brain blood vessels and brain blood flow and brain cells themselves. And so essentially what this does, it helps to enhance the delivery of oxygen and nutrients to the brain. There are several things that can affect your brain function, and one of the game changers, for example, is if a person presents with anemia. If you're anemic, then you're not going to deliver adequate amounts of oxygen to the brain, which can affect all of these things we've been talking about for the past few minutes. And also, if you have diabetes or blood sugar dysregulation, that can also affect the delivery of oxygen into your brain. So it's not just individual ingredient or ingredients in focus up. It's the brilliant combination of all of them collectively. And so that's what makes it so special and so effective. All right, the next ingredient, or the next product rather, is natural selection. Again, natural selection is one of my favorite products, and I'm just going to go right to the bottom. It helps to promote healthy mitochondrial function, and the mitochondria is a powerhouse of your cell. And if your mitochondria is not working correctly, then you can't detoxify efficiently, you can't deliver nutrients and neurotransmitters to different parts of the body. And so some of the ingredients that helps this take place, the first one is alpha-lipoic acid. And alpha-lipoic acid helps to quench free radicals, and it easily crosses the blood-brain barrier. And also alpha-lipoic acid is one of my favorite ingredients for diabetics. That helps to regulate blood sugar as well. It also has B12, known as cobalamin, and it has N-acetylcysteine, It has palladium, and palladium is an interesting trace element in that palladium tends to attract things that are unhealthy and unnatural in the cell, kind of like a magnet. So between a combination of the palladium and the alpha lipoic acid, this promotes significant detoxification in your body as we get exposed to heavy metals, to chemicals, to viruses, to bacteria, and those kind of things. This is an awesome product for those, again, that have been exposed to a lot of toxicity and have a lot of inflammation. So some of the benefits, for example, let's go back to lipoic acid and the natural selection. It helps to discourage abnormal cell growth. It helps to improve metabolic function and oxygenation of cells. Folks, you want healthy oxygenation in your cells. You want healthy amounts of oxygen in your brain. It also helps to slow the aging process from cellular breakdown. It supports cellular function and raises energy levels. It supports the elimination of toxins. It protects cellular DNA, and it converts free radicals into an energy source. All right, let's look at a little bit about the mitochondria and aerobic and anaerobic respiration. So the natural selection helps with aerobic respiration. We want aerobic respiration. And aerobic respiration is the process of producing cellular energy or fuel for your cell involving oxygen. Anaerobic respiration is a form of respiration that uses electron acceptors other than oxygen, so it's a very poor way to deliver fuel to your cells. So cancer patients, people that are chronically ill and chronically sick, tend to have more anaerobic respiration. So here's the way it works. Look up to the right of the screen and you see a little cigar-shaped mitochondrion. All of your cells and your muscles and organs has millions of mitochondria. Here's the way it works. Let's say you have a baked potato, and the starch in the baked potato gets broken down into one molecule of glucose. Okay, the glucose molecule goes through the mitochondria, through the Krebs cycle and the electron hydrogen transport system. The magic occurs, so in comes one molecule of glucose from the baked potato, and then out the other end comes 6 molecules of ATP, or fuel, to run your cell. Everyone follow that? 1 molecule of glucose equals 36 molecules of ATP, utilizing aerobic respiration. On the other hand, if you have poor health, things aren't going too well for you, and you're extremely toxic, then that 1 molecule of glucose goes into the mitochondria, and you only produce 2 gallons of ATP. So what had you rather do? Produce 36 gallons or 2 gallons? And so all of these things that we're talking about helps the functionality of it's called cell respiration and mitochondria. There's a new disease that is up and coming, and it's basically a mitochondrial-based disease, because if your mitochondria is not functioning right, then that affects everything. Your cells can't detoxify efficiently. They can't take in nutrients. They can't convert starches into energy. And so the natural selection helps that process. All right, next product, Cardizem. I know we've talked a lot about Cardizem as it relates to cardiovascular disease and cholesterol levels and those types of things, but there's more to it than that. Cardizem is one of the favorite products for dampening inflammation in the body. Worldwide literature and research has clearly shown that inflammation is the etiology of most chronic degenerative diseases. It's, for example, involved in Alzheimer's disease. It's involved in cancer, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol levels, and yes, even Parkinson's disease. These all are related to chronic inflammation in the body. Some of the symptoms of chronic inflammation, of course, if you do your lab work, one of the things I look at is C-reactive protein levels, which is an indication of inflammation. Then there's some other tests that I look for with elevated cytokine, inflammatory cytokines. So there are ways to determine through lab testing whether or not you have excess inflammation. Some of the symptoms include visible signs of aging like wrinkles, susceptibility to bacterial, fungal, and viral infections. And back to the low oxygen levels, one of the signs, for example, of low oxygen levels and inflammation is actually fungal infections in your toe or in your toenail, and chronic fungal infections in your feet, because there's not enough blood flow going to your lower extremities to carry white blood cells and immune cells to keep the fungal infection at bay. So that's a sign. Acid reflux, skin conditions like psoriasis and acne, arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, chronic pain can be a sign of inflammation. Even high blood pressure, heart disease, urinary tract infections. Cardizem has one of its special ingredients is a marine algae called cyanol, and it is a very potent antioxidant, and we talked a little bit about antioxidants. The other thing that Cardizem has in it is 2,000 units of vitamin D. Vitamin D is very important in regulating autoimmunity. Most patients have chronic degenerative disease are very low in vitamin D. Vitamin D levels it's a simple blood test, inexpensive blood test that you can do to measure your vitamin D levels. The majority of patients that I test have low vitamin D levels. And again, adequate amounts of vitamin D, very important for those that have the autoimmune diseases. Cardizem also supports healthy blood vessel function, helps support cartilage and joints, healthy joint function. So next time you think about Cardizem, again, it's more than just support to maintain healthy blood cholesterol levels. It's involved and touches so many different aspects of human biochemistry. This is kind of an unsung hero, so we need to think more about adding the Cardizem as just a basic product along with the X2O. All right, let's move to back up here just for a moment. I'm looking for my slide on brain inflammation. I guess that's not in here, fellas. All right, let's just go to Berry Balance. Berry Balance is an awesome product for blood sugar dysfunction. As a matter of fact, one of the ingredients that I like in Berry Balance is Berry Balance has zinc, and there's a strong connection between zinc and insulin. And people with diabetes, for example, type 2, frequently have lower levels of zinc than those without diabetes. It also has chromium, and chromium is a very key player. Researchers at Georgetown University Medical Center published a study in 2008 in the Journal of Inorganic Biochemistry, and they looked into the various benefits and the various types of chromium. And the chromium that is in the Berry Balance is chromium polynicotinate, and they found that was the most beneficial. Another interesting little factoid regarding the Berry Balance that surprised me as I was initially looking at these products. There's a little known ingredient called Bacillus coagulans, and Bacillus or B coagulans is an interesting product that feeds on urea and proteins that tend to clog the filtration tubules in your kidney, the glomeruli. And so this helps to keep your kidney clean and functioning like it should. So you've got the zinc and the chromium, and I've seen excellent results with the Berry Balance with low blood sugar, and there's been quite a few testimonials that are actually available regarding Berry Balance and type 2 diabetes. Excellent product. And there's a PubMed extract on zinc that basically talks about the proinsulin and insulin in the presence of zinc and how zinc plays a role in the production of insulin. So a lot of good information and abstracts regarding that. The other thing, an ingredient with Berry Balance, it has red grapeseed extract. and this also works as an antioxidant, and it is an insulin sensitivity enhancer. So if you add the grapeseed antioxidant extract and the chromium and the zinc, along with exercise and a healthy diet, this is a very powerful combination to help you get your blood sugar under control. And then we have Silver Max. And Silver Max is our, again, very important part of our armamentarium for infections and viruses and different things like that. It actually has 10 parts per million of silver, unlike some of the other products that have 50 parts per million and higher of silver. This is almost a homeopathic dose of silver. And so it can penetrate the cell and get into the cell and do what it's supposed to do, acting like a natural antibiotic because of the size. And you can't overdose on it. And it can be used for small children. It can be used for adults. And this is a product. I had one patient that had MRSA infection on her back, and she had taken antibiotics and topical and oral, and nothing seemed to work. And so we took the Silver Max ointment, and she took the silver internally. And as a result, in about 2 weeks, or actually less than 2 weeks, it cleared up. And so I think Connie even had a infection in her one of her front teeth, and she put the silver ointment on her tooth, and it actually had a very positive effect in reducing the pain in her tooth. So, you know, all of these products from Xooma, I could spend another hour or so going through the different products, but these are some of the key products that I wanted to talk to you about tonight that I feel are very important that we need to focus on. And maybe at another time we can go into some of the other products that Xooma has as well, the weight loss product and the new probiotic we have. But this time, I'm going to turn it back over to Bodie, and I've enjoyed sharing with you, and hope you folks have a good evening.
Hey, thank you, Dr. Paul, and for all of you on tonight. You'll begin receiving an email at the end of this broadcast from Daryl Cooper. It has his email attached, and if you will, please send in questions, comments, things that you've heard tonight, so that way we can bring on Dr. Paul again as a guest, and we can literally break down segments. You know, he can talk one night about the minerals, and then because really he could spend a 3 or 4 day lecture with us and just talking about the minerals and how vital they are for the human body, and how simple it is in a simplistic terms of taking that sachet we know as X2O, putting it in that water bottle, shaking it up, agitating it, letting it set 5 minutes, and then consume it. And then take another module on another Monday night and talk about Focus Up and talk about Revitamine and how important that is. And then come in another Monday night and talk about Silver Max, and then the Cardizem, and then talk about the Berry Balance and the Assimilator and the Omegas, you know, how important those things are for us. Folks, we have a wealth of information here. Dr. Paul has taken his time out, spent many hours in research developing this presentation you saw tonight and the audio that goes along with it. And Daryl Cooper, if you can step on now, we're real pleased to have Dr. Paul take up his time and share with all of us. And that's what we are here at Xooma Worldwide. You know, we're all about sharing and giving information so you and I can make better decisions for our families, for ourselves, and for our friends that we care about. And because of that, yes, we do have a business opportunity. And yes, if we go out and share with enough people out there in the world, Dr. Paul, and help them learn and help them get what they want in life, you know, we're going to be taken care of. And that's what Xooma is all about, Xooma family. We do this each and every Monday night. Again, we're not here to treat, cure, heal, diagnose, but we are here to give you valid information so you can make better decisions. Dr. Paul, we have the largest webcast we've had in over 3 years. I've been getting text all night. Is Dr. Paul going to be back? Is Dr. Paul going to be back? Is Dr. Paul going to be back on with us? Can he please come back again? So yes, you can reach out to get your friends and family members on the next webcast that he's on with us. We're so appreciative of his time, his and Miss Connie's. Thank you all for being with us tonight and giving us this great information so we too can make better decisions, Dr. Paul.
Thank you. My pleasure.
This recording is for educational purposes only. The name brand products referenced are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or mitigate any disease or illness. Health testimonies represent the personal experiences of the individuals and should not be viewed as medical advice.